Wang is a weak virgin loser who has never had a girlfriend, so he is mocked and ignored by his entire class. But as soon as childhood friend says she has a crush on him, all of his haters show up and beat him up for it. They then throw him off a bridge and leave him to die. But as Wang is drowning, he finds a glowing cube artifact at the bottom of the lake, and after touching it, he is granted unimaginable power, allowing him to take revenge on his bullies and rule the world. Let's take it from the start. Wang is at a high school mixer with all his classmates, and they are all playing Jenga. It's Shen Yao's turn to make a move, but when she locks eyes with Wang, she gets flustered and messes up. As part of the game, anyone who topples the tower is required to reveal a secret, so the group asks Shen Yao to tell him who her crush is. Wang starts smiling as soon as he hears this, so his classmates start teasing him because there's no way Shen Yao could possibly like a plain-looking NPC like him. But to everyone's surprise, including Wang, Shen Yao admits that she really does like him. And she makes it very clear that she's not joking because she has liked him ever since the day they met in middle school. Wang is too stunned because having Shen Yao confess to him is like a dream come true. But right after the mixer ended, he got kidnapped and is currently being beaten to a pulp down by the river. Wang has never met any of these people in his life, but their boss, Sun Jun, happens to have a crush on Shen Yao. And after learning that Shen Yao likes Wang rather than just taking the L and moving on, he decided to drag Wang down to the river and have his underlings threaten to kill him. Wang recognizes Sun Jun as the leader of a notorious gang, and he also recalls hearing that Sun Jun would constantly harass Shen Yao. So he realizes what's going on here, but there's nothing he can do against this many opponents. Sun Jun then video calls Shen Yao from Wang's phone and tells her to have a look at the pitiful state of her crush. Shen Yao is horrified to see what Sun Jun has done to Wang, so Wang yells for Sun Jun to leave her out of this because he doesn't want her to worry about him. But Sun Jun is intent on making Shen Yao watch Wang's humiliation. He tells Wang that he is a total loser and that he has no right to date someone as perfect as Shen Yao. He then orders Wang to swear that he will never get involved with Shen Yao again. Otherwise, Sun Jun says he's going to drop him in the river. Now Wang could take the easy way out and swear that he won't talk to Shen Yao again. But Wang would never betray her like that, so instead he headbutts the guy holding him. To Wang's credit, that was a really solid headbutt. But unfortunately for him, it was so solid that the guy holding him accidentally let go, so Wang ends up falling into the river. Sun Jun starts panicking because he never actually planned to kill Wang. He just wanted to scare him a little so he wouldn't steal Shen Yao from him. He frantically calls out for Wang to see if he's alright, but no one answers, so Wang is probably dead. That means Sun Jun has just committed murder, and he let Shen Yao witness the entire thing. Meanwhile, inside the water, Wang is currently drowning, but he doesn't bother trying to save himself, because if he can't protect the one that he loves, then there's no point in being alive. As his life flashes before his eyes, Wang has a vision of his childhood. He had just run away from a fight and by middle school standards that instantly destroyed all the popularity he used to have. And to really rub it in, he overhears two girls talking about how much of a crybaby he thinks he is. Hours went by, and as the school day ended, everyone went home, but Wang stayed behind and continued to sulk. Eventually, Shen Yao walks out of the gate, but she stops as soon as she notices Wang sitting by the gate, so she asks him what's wrong. Wang remains silent, so Shen Yao assumes he must have forgotten his umbrella and offers to share hers with him so they can walk home together. Wang refuses her offer and says he can walk home by himself, but Shen Yao reminds him that it's still raining and he doesn't have an umbrella, so he's going to get soaked. Wang realizes she's right, but he says he can just wait here until the rain stops. Shen Yao thinks Wang is really funny, but then she notices a cut on his arm, so she asks him to let her see it. Wang initially refuses, but Shen Yao says she just wants to help dress the wound. Wang eventually agrees, so Shen Yao puts a bandage on his arm and blows a kiss onto it to make it heal faster. And at that very moment, Wang had already imagined the next 50 years of his life with Shen Yao. He thanks her for her help, and from that moment forward, the two of them were practically inseparable. Back to the present, Wang wakes up in the water and he notices a light coming from the bottom of the river. He has already sunk too far down for him to make it back to the surface before he drowns, so he decides to commit to it and swims down to check out the light before he dies. Once he gets to the bottom, he finds a little glowing cube there, so he picks it up and before he even realizes what's going on, the cube activates and goes inside him. All of a sudden, Wang feels immense pain throughout his body and a few moments later he is teleported out of the water and starts traveling through a wormhole that lands him in the middle of a cube. When Wang wakes up, he starts panicking because he was drowning a second ago. He's relieved to be alive, but now he has no idea where he is or how he got here for that matter. Just then a system appears in front of him and announces that Wang now has the power to draw a 15-meter radius around himself, and within that area he is allowed to teleport to any location instantly. None of that makes any sense to Wang, since he doesn't believe teleportation is real, but in the next moment he gets teleported against his will. He appears into the sky above the canal, and Wang starts freaking out again because he is really high up and he's worried he might fall to his doom, but he's actually floating so he's safe. Once he calms down, he looks at the ground and realizes that Sun Jun is desperately searching for him in the water because he's worried that he might have killed Wang, and he finds it kind of amusing, but a few seconds later he gets teleported to a new location. Sun Jun gets the feeling that someone was just watching him from the sky, so he asks his subordinates if they heard anything just now, but they think Sun Jun must have just been hallucinating, so he tells them to keep looking for Wang. Meanwhile, Wang ended up being teleported into an empty classroom in his school. He is now sure that he really can teleport, but he doesn't understand how he got this power. Suddenly, the system speaks up and tells Wang that he has just continuously activated his teleportation ability. Wang starts freaking out and worries that he might be going crazy since he is hearing voices in his head, but the system corrects him because it is actually in Wang's body, not his head. That's still not very comforting, so Wang tells it to get out of his body, but the system ignores him and warns that someone is approaching. There's a staff member walking towards the classroom because he heard a weird noise coming from inside, but as he opens the door, all he sees is an empty classroom with a pebble of water on the floor. Wang ended up making it back to his house, so he decided to take a shower to relax. Once he's done with his shower, he pulls out his phone and somehow it still works, even though it was at the bottom of the river with him. The first thing he does is call Shen Yao to let her know that he's alive, and as soon as Shen Yao answers, she starts frantically asking him if he's alright. He tells her he is fine, but she thinks Sun Jun went way too far, so she asks Wang if they should report him to the police. Honestly, Shen Yao should have called the cops the moment she saw Wang fall off the bridge, but Wang tells her there's no need. He managed to get away without Sun Jun spotting him, so right now he's probably still searching the river for Wang's body and worrying about all the potential jail time he could get. Anyway, a lot of stuff happened today, so Wang tells her to get some rest for today and hangs up. He then lays down in his bed and wonders what he's going to do about his system, because no one would believe him even if he told them. All of a sudden the system shows up again and asks if Wang has calmed down yet. Wang asks it why it keeps following him around, but the system reminds him that it is a part of his body now, so Wang can't get away from it. The system then activates the cube, and Wang is sucked into it once again. The system explains that it has established a connection with Wang's body, so in other words, Wang is stuck with it forever. That makes him the user of the Heradic Cube Universal System, and by extension, the master of the system. Wang still doesn't fully understand, so he asks the system where he is, so it explains that this is a macro space within the cube. And even though the cube is only 3 cubic centimeters big, it has a lot more space on the inside. Wang knows the system is telling the truth, so he asks it why it bother helping someone like him, and the system tells him it's because it wants to make his dream come true, and that dream is to become the king of the world. Things continues. Wang tries practicing his teleportation with the system, but he soon runs out of energy, so he almost falls off the edge of a building. The system tells him that its energy reserves have almost been depleted, so it is going to have to limit the teleportation to once a minute. Wang decides to take a break from teleportation practice for now, since it'd be bad that he ran out of energy 1,000 feet in the air. The system tells him that there's a safer way to practice because in theory he should be able to use his powers to see everything within 15 meters. Wang decides to give it a try, and with his new power he's able to see his bedroom, a couple in bed, and one of his neighbors while she's in the bathtub. This feels wrong, so Wang stops using the power on his apartment building and tries scanning the garden instead, but he gets scared when a cat locks eyes with him. Wang ends up falling to his knees, so the system warns him that if he keeps using his teleportation and sensory enhancements, then he will run out of energy. For a beginner, Wang is pretty good at controlling his powers, but his body isn't used to burning so much energy, so he ends up passing out. A few hours later, Wang wakes up in his bed and he realizes he might have overdone it with the training last night, so he will be more careful from now on. The system brought Wang back to his room after he passed out because he needs a lot of rest. Wang suddenly realizes he can no longer hear the system's voice in his head and asks what's going on. The system explains that staying bonded with Wang's body consumes energy, and he can't let Wang die from energy exhaustion because he would disappear too. That makes sense to Wang, but he's still having a hard time believing that he has superpowers now. He tries searching for information about the cube on the internet, but unfortunately there's no Indian guy with a tutorial for this, so he's going to have to figure it out on his own. Just then, he receives a message from Yao, and she's asking him if he wants to have lunch with her tomorrow. Wang is excited at first, but then he remembers what Sun Jun did to him, and he swears that he will make him regret it. But not right now, because he still runs out of energy way too quickly. He asks the system if there's any way for him to increase his strength, so it tells him that there's an inbuilt automatic upgrade function. So by absorbing an energy gem, Wang can get stronger. Wang gets excited and asks what kind of gems he needs for the upgrade, so the system tells him he can use rocks. Theoretically, any random rock could have energy stored within it, but he would have better luck using rocks like that valuable charismatite on the shelf or his mother's priceless diamond ring. Wang can't afford to use such expensive rocks on the system, but the system tells him he doesn't need to worry because those don't have enough energy in the first place. But the system did manage to find a gem outside that should have enough power to give him a decent upgrade. Wang asks where it is, and the system tells him it's in the downstairs garden, so Wang wastes no time and teleports downstairs with a shovel in hand. He then asks where he should start digging, but the system encourages him to try to find it on his own with his spatial awareness. It's worth giving it a shot, so Wang closes his eyes and starts scanning the area. Eventually he locates something over by that tree, so he walks over and digs it up. He finds it hard to believe that this rock really has power inside it, since it looks like a regular bright orange pebble. But the system assures him that it can be used for his upgrade. Wang asks what he should do next, so the system tells him to put the gem in his inner cube. Wang enters the cube space and holds the stone up against the wall, and a few seconds later it is absorbed. He is surprised that actually worked, and he's already starting to feel the power rush into his body. The system explains that the stone's power has raised Wang's strength by 2 and his endurance by 1, and if he keeps absorbing power stones, he can greatly improve his compatibility. The next morning, Wang's alarm goes off, so he gets out of bed, but he's still sleepy because he spent all night hunting for power stones. He suddenly remembers that he has to go to school today, so he hurries to get ready and dashes to his class a few minutes later. As soon as he gets there, Yao starts asking him for an explanation after everything that happened last night, but then she realizes everyone in class is staring at her, and they still remember her admitting that she likes Wang, so they start teasing her over it. Just then, there's a commotion at the front door because Sun Jun just showed up, and the first thing he did after getting here was order one of his subordinates to kick a random dude in the body. Sun Jun clearly broke into the school because he's after Wang, so Yao is worried, but Wang tells her to calm down and go back to her seat for now. Sun Jun heard that Wang was still alive, so he walks to the front of the class and demands to know where he is. As soon as he says Wang's name, everyone in class looks at him because they're all a bunch of snitches. Wang tries to ignore the problem in hopes that Sun Jun will just give up and go away, but he already spotted Wang, so he starts walking up the stairs to get to him. It doesn't look like Wang will be able to get out of this without a fight, but with his new powers, he should be able to handle him in a fight. Just to be sure, he asks the system if he's got a good chance at winning, and the system tells him this will be an easy win because the average combat power of the people here is 5 and Wang's current combat power is 22. All of a sudden, Yao tries talking Sun Jun out of this because she doesn't want Wang to get hurt, but Sun Jun just walks up to her and starts shit-talking Wang. Yao tells Sun Jun to just leave already, but Wang has had enough of this disrespect, so he hits up and apologizes to Yao for letting Sun Jun harass her for so long, but he says he will take care of him now. Sun Jun is offended that Wang thinks he can take care of him, so he grabs him by the collar and threatens to kill him. However, Wang grabs his arm and squeezes it so hard that Sun Jun momentarily reevaluates his decisions. Wang tells Sun Jun that if he continues harassing him and Yao, then he will have no choice but to make him regret it. Sun Jun is still trying to figure out what steroids Wang took to have so much strength, but all of a sudden the class teacher arrives and he tells Sun Jun and his men to get out because they aren't part of this class. Sun Jun doesn't want the teacher to call the police, so he agrees to leave. But before he does, he whispers into Wang's ear and tells him to come to the North City basketball court tonight if he doesn't want Yao to get hurt. Sun Jun then leaves, and Yao asks Wang to tell her what Sun Jun whispered into his ear, but Wang tells her it wasn't important. Coincidentally, he says his head suddenly started hurting, so he might have to skip class today. Meanwhile, over at the basketball court, Sun Jun still can't wrap his head around how Wang suddenly became strong enough to leave bruises on his wrist. But he chalks it up to a fluke, cause there's no way he's been hitting the gym that hard, and he swears that he will make Wang pay for humiliating him like that. A little while later, Wang arrives at the basketball court and he demands to know where Sun Jun is. He finds Sun Jun sitting at the top of the bleachers and Sun Jun laughs because there's no way Wang can escape now. And there's no chance that Wang wins this fight because Sun Jun never planned on having a one-on-one, he's gonna jump Wang with his entire gang. The system warns Wang that he might be cooked here because there are 13 opponents here. Wang is still confident in his powers, so he asks the system what his chances of winning are, and to his horror, the system tells him he only has a 20% chance of winning. Wang suddenly doesn't feel so confident anymore, and Sun Jun notices this, so he starts mocking him even more. He gathers all his men and they all stand in front of Wang, but before he begins the beatdown, he says he will give Wang one last chance to apologize and beg for mercy. However, Wang starts insulting Sun Jun and his North City gang for being too scared to fight him one-on-one. He's trying to bait Sun Jun into fighting solo so he has a better chance of winning, and Sun Jun knows this, but he can't let that insult slide, so he's about to swing at Wang. But before he does, one of his men steps out and says he will fight Wang for Sun Jun. Kong is the strongest fighter in Sun Jun's gang, so everyone is sure that Wang stands no chance against him. And even Wang isn't sure he can handle him, so he asks the system to analyze Kang's combat power. But it's only 10, so he shouldn't be too hard to beat. Kong picks up a basketball and gets ready to throw it at Wang, but the system warns him, so he dodges in time. Kong then tries to punch Wang, but he is blocking and weaving like he's a professional fighter. Meanwhile, back in class, Yao was worried about Wang because he was acting suspicious earlier and now he won't answer his phone, so she decides to do something about it. Back at the gym, Kong still hasn't managed to land a single hit on Wang yet, and he's starting to wear himself out, so Wang just needs to land the final blow now. Kong charges at Wang again, but Wang is still way too quick for him, so he catches Kang's leg, and from there it's lights out for him because Wang hits him with an electric punch and throws Kong into a wall. The other gang members can't believe that Kong was actually defeated by a nobody like Wang, so they ask Sun Jun what they should do. Sun Jun just laughs and yells that even if Wang was able to defeat Kong, there are still too many of them for him to fight at once, so he will still lose. Wang asks the system if his chances of winning against the gang have gone up at all. And since Kong is still out cold, there's one less person to fight, but Wang's chances of winning are still only 30%, so he may be in real trouble now. Things continues, Wang has no choice but to fight them all at once, so he gets into position and starts fending off their attacks, but he can't keep up with all of them, so he gets kicked from behind. Wang took that kick personally, so he turns around and erases the guy's entire future generation in one kick. He then throws him in front of Sun Jun, and Sun Jun is starting to get worried, so he tells everyone to surround Wang immediately. Wang can't let himself get cornered, so he flips onto the bleachers and starts running to create some distance between them. He then jumps down and leg sweeps one guy, but in the process he gets grabbed from behind. He tries to get the guy off of him, but before he knows it, he gets kicked in the gut and knocked to the ground. That kick really hurt, but Wang isn't going to let them catch him off guard again, so he stands ready to face them all at once. At first he is overwhelmed by their constant attacks, but this time he can sense the sneak attack coming, so he dodges it and catches the leg of the guy who got kicked him. He then swings the guy around and throws him straight into Sun Jun's face, and Sun Jun is finally starting to realize just how terrifying Wang's strength is. Wang then starts walking over to Sun Jun, but the system warns him that he needs to take a break because he has almost exhausted all his energy. In his current state, there's no way he could beat Sun Jun in a fight, but even if it's just a bluff, Wang still wants to scare Sun Jun enough so he never causes trouble for Yao again. Just then, the boss of the South City gang shows up, and he's here to make fun of Sun Jun and the North City gang for losing a fight as a single dude. He tells Sun Jun that if he can't beat up one guy, then he has no right to call himself the boss of the North City gang, so he should just give up already, but Wang interrupts him mid-sentence. He can tell that there is clearly some pre-existing beef between the North and South City gangs, but that's got nothing to do with him, so he doesn't want to get involved. However, even though Juan has never met Wang before and has no idea why he was fighting Sun Jun, he decides to send his subordinates to beat him up just to prove a point. The system warns Wang that he stands no chance of beating them in a head-on fight with his current energy levels, so Wang has to run for his life. Wang asks the system to teleport him. Since he is low on energy, he has to wait for the cooldown, so he keeps running until he makes it to the side of the stair. The cooldown is over, so he can finally teleport again, and the first thing he does is turn off all the lights. While everyone is fumbling around in the dark, Wang teleports behind them and after staring Juan straight in the face, Wang slams him into the ground. He then proceeds to beat up every single member of Juan's gang. So by the time the lights are turned back on, Wang is the only one left standing, so Sun Jun is even more terrified of him now. All of a sudden they hear a man yelling from outside the gym, and it looks like Yao called the cops because she was worried about Wang. The police are currently trying to get through the locked doors, and Yao asks them to please hurry because her friend might be in danger in there. Wang won't be able to get out of the building without being spotted, and he doesn't want to get in trouble for fighting, so he needs to come up with something quickly. He looks over at Sun Jun and teleports in front of him, so Sun Jun gets on his knees and starts begging for forgiveness. This gives Wang a good idea, so he says he will forgive Sun Jun, but only on one condition. As the police finally get the door open, they see Sun Jun holding Wang by the collar and pretending to punch him. Sun Jun and Huan end up getting in trouble for starting a group fight in the gym, but Wang got away scot-free because he convinced the cops that he was an innocent bystander who got caught up in a crossfire. He also made Sun Jun promise to never bother Yao again, so that problem is solved. But that fight made Wang understand that there are limits to his power, so he needs to get stronger as soon as possible. And to do that, he needs to find more power gems. He goes looking in a jewelry store, but he soon realizes that he's too broke to afford any of these, and he doesn't want to steal them either. He briefly considers getting a sugar mama so he can afford to buy the gems, but that's not worth it. So Wang decides to go out and look for power gems in the wild. He gets a bunch of gear and heads into the nearest mountain range so he can start looking for some gems. And he does find some, but one is under a giant rock, one is at the bottom of the lake, and another one is stuck 15 meters underground, so there's no way Wang could get to it on his own. Just then, the system alerts Wang because it has just located a cave underground and adds a lot of power stone energy in it. Wang is curious, so he tries teleporting into the cave, but for some reason, even though it is within range, he can't get in. The system explains that if an area is completely sealed off, then Wang can't teleport inside. To teleport into the cave, he would need at least a 1 centimeter gap to get in, but Wang doesn't have the strength to dig all the way down there. He thinks about it for a second, and if all he needs is to be close to a gap in the cave, he should probably be able to find one near the lake. The water is bound to have eroded the ground, so after scanning he finds a tiny gap that leads into the cave. Once he is teleported into the cave, he falls over because he wasn't expecting the floor here to be so slippery. He takes out his flashlight and starts looking around the cave to see if he can find anything, but all he sees is a random frog. All of a sudden, the system informs Wang that it has detected power stones directly in front of him, but there's nothing but a wall here, so Wang gets incredibly frustrated. After all the trouble he went through to get down here, he still can't get to the power stones, but then he feels a gust of wind on his face. He realizes that if there's wind, there must be a hole somewhere. As soon as he finds the gap, Wang teleports inside. After teleporting through the gap, Wang finds himself in an entirely new section of the cave. He takes a few steps forward, but he wasn't paying attention, so he nearly falls off the edge of a cliff. Luckily, he managed to save himself, but his flashlight is gone now. He decides to take a break and try to spot the gems before he does anything else. But it turns out that Wang isn't alone in here. He manages to locate the gems in a cluster on the other side of the cave, but while he's trying to figure out how to get there, since they are out of his teleportation range, a giant snake sneaks up behind him. But just as the snake is about to eat him, Wang decides to just teleport from rock to rock until he makes it to the gems. So he teleports away before the snake could bite down on him. He still hasn't realized that there's a snake in this tunnel, so he decides to walk the rest of the way while he waits for his teleportation cooldown to end. He eventually gets close enough that the system can identify 12 different power stones here. So Wang is really excited, but it's going to be difficult to get to them because the platforms near the power stones are very narrow. He is still completely unaware that the snake is trying to eat him, and he doesn't want to risk falling to his death, so he is hesitant to teleport there. But there's no other way, so just before the snake bites him, Wang teleports down and clings onto a rock for dear life. Now that he's close enough to the power stones, Wang ties a rope to himself for safety and begins mining them, and after getting his first one, he's unbelievably happy. But when he tries to get the second one, his hand slips and he accidentally drops it all the way down to the bottom of the cave. He can't afford to lose that gem, so he tries using his spatial awareness to locate it, but to his horror, he senses something huge right next to him. As the snake tries to bite him, Wang slips and falls off the edge of the pillar, so the snake dives after him. Luckily, the rope around Wang's waist stops him from falling, so the snake misses him and falls into the water. However, moments later, the rope snaps and Wang ends up falling into the water as well. Now he's in danger of drowning, but the snake is still trying to eat him, so Wang grabs his shovel and tries to smack the snake away. But the shovel does absolutely nothing, so Wang gets captured by the snake and it begins squeezing the life out of him. Wang asks the system to teleport him into the cube dimension, but the system tells him he can't do that while the snake is holding onto him. So as a last-ditch effort, Wang stabs the shovel into the snake to make it release him. The snake does release him, but Wang has already passed out from a lack of air, so the system automatically teleports him into the cube dimension. And once Wang regains consciousness, he tells the system that he's going to merge with all the gems he just collected. That's certainly an option, but the system informs Wang that there's a better way to do this. He currently has 11 elementary power gems, but they can be synthesized into an advanced power gem, and an advanced power gem will grant him much more power. Wang obviously wants an advanced power gem, but the system tells him it will take 4 days to synthesize the gems into an advanced one. But they don't have that kind of time, so the system tells Wang he can synthesize 9 of the gems and then use 2 of them right now so he can fight the snake. Once he is finished absorbing the 2 elementary gems, Wang teleports back out for the cube and the snake immediately attacks him again. However, this time Wang easily blocks its attack and kills the snake instantly. Wang is honestly disappointed that the fight was so easy since he was expecting more of a challenge. But he is grateful for the easy win regardless. He walks into the water to take a look at the snake's corpse, but to his surprise, he finds another power gem in there, and this one looks really pretty, so Wang has a good idea about what to do with it. Meanwhile, Sun Jun and Huan meet in a club, and Huan seems hellbent on getting revenge against Wang. The story continues. We see Huan wants to get even with Wang, but Sun Jun doesn't think it's worth it because there's no way they can beat him. Even with the combined force of both of their gangs, Wang would still wipe the floor with them, but Huan has a plan. He tells Sun Jun that Luo is back in town, and as soon as Sun Jun hears that name, he becomes terrified. He yells at Huan because it would be a death sentence to even consider asking Luo for help with this, but Huan isn't stupid enough to do that. However, he is stupid enough to think he can manipulate Luo into getting rid of Wang for them. He reminds Sun Jun that the reason Luo left town 2 years ago was because he got into a fight with someone stronger than him, a man called Shiku Shen. Sun Jun doesn't know much about Shiku, but he does remember Shiku having something to do with Shen Yao. Shen Yao was studying in the library when all of a sudden her phone rang. As soon as she answered it, the guy on the other end warned her that someone was coming for her. All of a sudden, Shen Yao is surrounded by 4 men in suits, and these guys don't seem like they are here to give her candy. So Shen Yao gets up and runs straight for the door, but there's an agent blocking her path, so she's forced to run down the corridor instead. She eventually finds a closet, so she opens the door and locks herself inside to escape the agents. But now she's got nowhere to go. The agents start trying to break down the door, and Shen Yao is terrified. But just when things look hopeless, the man who called to warn her tells her to turn around. Behind her, there's a blob of yellow energy floating, and from it a hand reaches out to grab her, so Shen Yao closes her eyes and waits for the inevitable. By the time the agents have broken the door down, Shen Yao is long gone. She was taken by Shiku, and he's the guy who called to warn her about the agents, so he's currently trying to get her as far away from them as possible. So he's hitting every Parker move in the book. However, the agents have a secret weapon to counter Shiku's Parker, a gun. Shiku gets shot out of the air and he's mostly unharmed, but he won't be able to get away from the agents like this, so he puts Shen Yao down and sets up a barrier to protect her while he prepares for a fight. He jumps off the ledge and as soon as he lands, he hits one of the agents with a punch that definitely made him start smelling sound. Another agent runs up to attack him, so Shiku punches him away while also fending off 2 other agents. Eventually, one of them manages to tackle Shiku, and now that he's got him, he drags Shiku into the air. After a brief scuffle midair, the man manages to slam Shiku into a building with the help of his 3 allies. But when the dust settles, all 3 allies have been knocked out. Shiku, on the other hand, is perfectly fine, but I'm sure at least 10 innocent people just died in that building. Shiku still has an agent confronting him, so he floats back out of the building and takes off his coat because things are about to get serious. The agent is tired of wasting time, so he decides to go all out and picks up a second building to use as a projectile. The people in that building are probably wishing they called in sick for work right about now, but there's nothing they can do as the agent throws the building at Shiku. But without even breaking a sweat, Shiku catches the building with his powers, breaks it apart, and throws the blocks back at the agent. The agent tries to defend himself, but Shiku simply compressed all the blocks until a massive explosion occurs that sends Shiku and the agent to a mirrored version of the world. Shiku is annoyed that things turn out like this because it's going to cause a lot of trouble for him, and he still has to deal with the agent first. The agent pulls out his gun and aims it at Shiku, and I'm not sure what he thinks a gun is going to do when Shiku just caught a bully a minute ago, but none of it matters because the gun doesn't work in this dimension and Shiku is out of time anyway. The yellow energy begins to surround Shiku, and as it does, it knocks the agent backward into the water. Time then begins to rewind, and Shiku hopes that things can turn out differently in the next loop. Eventually, everything goes back to normal, and Shen Yao wakes up back at her desk in the library. She has no recollection of what just happened, and she finds a young Wang standing next to her and asking for help because he doesn't understand his math homework. Back in the present, Huan continues talking about his plan. Luo has some major beef with Shiku, so if they played her cards right then they might be able to force Wang into a fight with Luo by using Yao as bait. The next day, Wang is supposed to meet Yao for a date, but she's late and when he tries to call her phone, she doesn't answer. He thinks it's strange since Yao never ignores his calls, but she might just be busy, so he decides to wait a little longer for her to arrive. However, he eventually overhears someone talking about an incident that happened at the apartment complex where Yao stays, and Wang has a bad feeling about this. So he takes off running to go check on Yao, but to his dismay, when he arrives, he finds the place swarmed with police cars and Yao's mother is crying because Yao was kidnapped. The police say they're going to investigate to find Yao, but Wang isn't going to wait around for that, so he needs to find out who was behind this. Just then, Wang notices Sun Jun walking through the crowd nearby and he knows he must have something to do with this. So a little while later, Wang corners him in a dark alley and demands an explanation. At first, Sun Jun tries to play dumb and acts like he doesn't know anything, but then Wang punches a hole through the wall and warns Sun Jun that the same thing is going to happen to his head if he doesn't start talking soon. Sun Jun immediately begins snitching and tells Wang all about the plan that Huan came up with. Meanwhile, Huan is regretting the existence of the dumbass brain cells that made him think this was a good plan. Luo already figured out that Huan was trying to use him, and he hates being manipulated, but he also hates Shiku. So if Huan's plan will lure out Shiku, then he's going to play along. But that doesn't mean he has forgiven Huan, so Luo is currently playing golf with Huan's mouth. Shen Yao is currently tied up in the corner of the room and she's terrified after seeing what Luo just did to Huan. So she tries to avoid eye contact, but then he walks straight up to her. He says he's going to ask her a few questions and she had better not lie to him because he's not above rearranging her face like he did with Huan. He asks her what her relationship is with Shiku. But Yao has honestly never heard of the guy before. Luo doesn't believe her because they have records of Shiku risking his life against extraordinary men just to save her, so there's no way she doesn't know who he is. It is possible that Shiku saved her without revealing his true identity to her, so she really doesn't know who he is. But Shiku certainly knows who Yao is, and he seems to care about her a lot. So it is strange, and he hasn't shown up to save her yet, even though she was kidnapped. And even if Shiku does show up, the butler isn't sure that Luo will be able to win against him with his current forces. Luo thinks that's absurd because he spent a ton of money hiring a bunch of professional fighters for his revenge, but even so, they don't know how strong Shiku truly is, so the butler isn't sure they would win against him. And it may not be a wise decision to kill or even hurt Yao until they have a plan to deal with Shiku. Luo understands what he's saying, so he calms down and agrees to leave Yao alone for now and leaves the room. Meanwhile, Sun Jun has just finished explaining how Huan convinced Luo to kidnap Yao because of her connection to Shiku's Shen. Wang doesn't understand any of it, though, so he asks Sun Jun who this Shiku guy is, and why Luo believes he can use Yao to lure him out. Sun Jun reminds Wang of the incident that happened to Shen Yao several years ago when she was nearly kidnapped. The public story is that a random good Samaritan saved her, but in reality, that man was Shiku. Since that day, many people have tried to find him, and none succeeded because Shiku never leaves traces of his presence behind, except one time when he showed up and broke 2 of Luo's fingers. Ever since that day, Luo has been hell-bent on finding Shiku so he can get his revenge. Huan decided to use this to his advantage and gave Luo some information so he would kidnap Yao. But to be clear, Sun Jun was against the plan from the start, so he had nothing to do with it. Wang has heard enough, so he is ready to go save Yao. And since Sun Jun wasn't involved, Wang is going to let him go. Wang eventually arrives at the construction site where Yao is being held, but as he approaches, the system warns him that there are 7 powerful martial artists in there. Wang realizes this could be troublesome, so he asks the system if it is done processing that advanced gem yet, but it will still take another 30 minutes to synthesize. Now Wang could wait until he gets his power boost, but he doesn't know if Yao is safe, so he can't afford to waste any time. As he is walking towards the building, Luo and his team spots him, and even though Wang isn't Shiku, Luo thinks it'll be fun to torment him, so he orders his martial artists to deal with him. But they can only fight him one at a time because jumping him all at once wouldn't be fun to watch. Things continues, Wang walks up to the front gate and he is about to break the lock to get in, but he is stopped by a martial artist, Pablo. He warns Wang that the lock is reinforced with a supernatural barrier, so if he tries to break through it with brute force, he will suffer severe backlash and die. In that case, Wang tells him to hand over the key for the lock, but Pablo can't do that. He has orders to kill anyone who tries to go upstairs, so he is giving Wang a chance to back away and go home. However, Wang has no intention of abandoning Yao, and if Pablo is going to try to get in his way, then Wang is going to have to beat him up. According to the system, Pablo has a power level of 52 and Wang's power level is still only 50, so he is at a huge disadvantage here. Pablo throws the first punch and it looks like it would have been fatal, but Wang managed to dodge in time and lands a kick across his face. However, it did absolutely no damage to him. Pablo is stronger and more durable than Wang, so even if Wang is a little bit faster than him, he won't be able to land any decisive blows with his fists. But then Wang realizes this is a street fight, so as the man charges at him again, he teleports a nearby hammer into his hand and caves in his skull with it. While Pablo is taking a potentially permanent nap, Wang takes the key and proceeds to the next floor. As he is running up the stairs, the system warns Wang that the next fighter has a power level of 75, but Wang doesn't hesitate and rushes into the room. As soon as he enters, he realizes all the lights are off, so the room is pitch black. The martial artist on this floor, Li, is an assassin who has mastered the technique of erasing his presence in dark places. All his stat points were dumped into stealth, so he could easily sneak up on Wang and kill him before he realizes what's going on, or at least that would be the case if Wang didn't have spatial awareness. Wang knows exactly where Li is, so as he's trying to attack Wang from behind, Wang pulls a bat out of his inventory and whacks Li right in the nuts. Two martial artists on the upper floor have been watching Wang make his way up the floors, and they are surprised that he managed to beat them so easily. But his next opponent is going to be Beowulf, and the man doesn't think Wang stands a chance. He predicts that it will only take a few seconds for Beowulf to crush him, but if by some miracle Wang manages to defeat him, then he will have to face them, and the girl is particularly excited. Wang eventually makes it up to the next floor and Beowulf is standing there waiting for him with his back turned. He's about to give a speech about how impressive it is that Wang made it this far, but Wang skips the cutscenes and tries to whack him with the bat immediately. However, Beowulf catches it and slams Wang to the ground. That single slam knocked all the wind out of Wang's system, so he knows he stands no chance against Beowulf as he is now. But fortunately, the system informs him that the advanced gem is almost fully processed, so he just needs to survive for a minute so he can get his stat boost. Yeah, that's going to be a lot harder than he thought, because Beowulf is currently hitting combos on Wang and there's nothing he can do about it. Wang attempts to kick Beowulf, but getting close to him was a mistake because Beowulf catches Wang's leg, breaks his arm, and then punches him straight through a pillar. Wang would be dead right now, but a minute has passed, so the system begins integrating the advanced gem's power. This heals Wang's body and boosts all his stats, so he is ready to resume the fight, but this time the scales are tipped in his favor. Since Wang is back on his feet, Beowulf gets ready for another round of battle. But with a single punch, Wang sends him flying across the room. That punch has Beowulf questioning everything he has worked for because he can't believe a sea-level warrior like him would lose to a random kid. But that random kid proceeds to hit him with a black flash and knock him through the wall. Luo has been watching the whole thing on the cameras, and he is furious that the highly trained martial artists that he paid for are losing to a kid he's never even heard of. Maybe it would have been better to have them jump Wang after all, but the butler assures him that the next two martial artists will definitely defeat him. They are from the Million Martial Arts Alliance, and it is safe to say that they are true professionals. Million Stones is a force to be reckoned with. The girl is even more terrifying than he is. Since she got here, she's been wearing a restriction bracelet to limit her powers, and if she were to remove it, there's no telling the amount of destruction that she could cause. Wang is now climbing the staircase to get to the next floor, but the system warns him that his heart rate is skyrocketing and he is experiencing severe psychological stress. Wang is well aware of this and he is stressed because he can sense the terrifying aura coming from the people on the next floor. But no matter what, he needs to keep going so he can save Yao. The story continues. We see Wang makes his way up to the next floor, and once he is in the room, he is confronted by Stone and Kwai. She's excited that Wang is finally here, so she pulls out a power scanner and walks up to him so she can see how strong he is. However, to her surprise, the scanner says Wang has an EF wavelength of 0. Whatever that means, he's not a superhuman, at least by EF standards. Meanwhile, Stone analyzes the surveillance footage from Wang's previous fights and from what he sees, it doesn't look like Wang is a cultivator either, because he has no internal power, and the only fighting technique he seems to know is the left-right goodnight. Wang has been fighting with nothing but pure physical strength, so Kwai believes he must be a body refiner, and now she's even more excited because defeating a body refiner will definitely boost her power. Wang has absolutely no idea what's going on, but after Kwai finally regains her composure, she apologizes for being so rude and properly introduces herself. She tells him her name is Kwai Jilin, but he can call her darling if he wants. Wang still doesn't understand why she's so excited to meet him, and since she's introducing herself, he does the same and shakes her hand. However, that was a mistake because Kuai grips his hand tightly so he can't get away, and while Wang was distracted by her lips, she punches him square in the face. Wang is a believer of equal rights and equal lefts, so he swings back and uppercuts Kuai as revenge. But unfortunately, she's actually into that stuff, so getting punched just made her excited. Wang wants nothing to do with this level of crazy, so he pulls his hand away from Kuai and calls her a pervert. She doesn't deny the accusations, but she wants to have more fun with Wang, so she charges at him and starts punching him over and over in the gut. Wang tries to stop her by grabbing her hair, but then she says harder daddy and Wang is caught off guard that she is able to kick him across the room, and then she starts walking over to him with a devious look in her eyes. Stone tells Wang that he's no match for Kuai, so he should start saying his final prayers before she kills him. However, Kuai doesn't even give him a chance to respond before she sidekicks him into a pillar. That last kick really took the wind out of him, but when he looks up at Kuai, she looks like she's taunting him to fight back, so he gets up and decides to go all out against her. He punches Kuai straight in the face, but even with blood coming out of her nose, she's still smiling because she loves the pain. She tells Wang to keep going and to motivate him a little. She starts attacking again, so Wang has no choice but to hit her with a left-right combo over and over, and she's loving every second of it. Kuai is usually weird, but she's acting weirder than usual, so Stone is starting to get worried. Once Wang is done punching Kuai, she tells him she's disappointed that this is all he can do, and then she roundhouse kicks him to the floor. She was about to activate her powers, but Stone stops her and says it's too dangerous to do that here. However, she doesn't listen to him because if she consumes Wang's energy, it will make her a lot stronger, and she needs the power to make sure she and Stone can be free together. Kuai jumps up and slashes at Wang's arm with her claws, and he couldn't defend himself in time, so now he's bleeding. He jumps back to create some distance, but then he loses sight of Kuai, so she manages to sneak up on him, and she's still doing freaky shit because she grabs Wang's arm and starts licking his blood. Wang knocks her off and he doesn't want her to lick him like that again, so he pulls the staff out of his inventory and desperately tries to use it to keep her away. But she's too strong for him, so he ends up getting knocked back into a wall. Kuai outclasses Wang in both speed and strength, so he really needs to lock in if he's going to survive. As Kuai charges at him again, Wang just barely manages to dodge as she slashes in his throat, but it looks like he just got lucky dodging her last attack because when he tries to counterattack her, she vanishes and reappears behind him. She then wraps her arms and legs around Wang and takes a huge bite out of his shoulder. By the time he finally gets her off his back, Kuai has already gotten a mouthful of Wang's blood, and it's the best thing she's ever tasted. The energy she absorbs from Wang's blood is so pure that it instantly makes her level up, so she's about to lose control. However, Stone can't let that happen, so before she attacks Wang again, he shoots a paralysis needle at her. The needle knocks Kuai out, and Wang is low-key pissing himself because he totally would have died if Stone didn't stop Kuai just then. Stone can't believe Wang's energy was pure enough to make Kuai lose control after one gulp, but he needs to act fast to make sure she recovers. He performs an acupuncture technique that undoes Kuai's partial beast transformation so her condition becomes stable. Wang isn't sure what's going on, but he knows he stands no chance against Kuai, and if Stone is anything like her, it would be hard for Wang to survive fighting him. However, Stone seems to be distracted since he is taking care of Kuai, so Wang tries to use the opportunity to go grab a brick and smack Stone over the head with it. However, Stone spots him trying to sneak across the room, so he uses his powers to shoot a gust of air at Wang. Wang gets blown back by the attack and he couldn't even see it coming, so fighting Stone is going to be a lot tougher than he thought. Stone wants to finish Wang off quickly so he can get back to treating Kuai, so he launches a wind slash at Wang. And normally he wouldn't have been able to dodge it, but the system warned him at the last second, so Wang manages to evade it. Stone is about to launch another attack, but Kuai starts losing control again, so he has to go attend to her. He can't deal with Wang and treat Kuai at the same time, so Stone tells Wang to just go save his friend already. Wang asks if this means Stone is giving up, but Stone is from the Million Alliance, and the members of the Million Alliance aren't allowed to give up. He says he just wants to call a truce, and Wang knows this is the only way he makes it out of this alive. But there's no guarantee that Stone won't attack him once he drops his guard, so he has to bluff a little. He tells Stone that if he doesn't admit defeat, then that means they have to keep fighting, and Stone knows he could definitely beat Wang's ass, but he can't afford to leave Kuai's side right now. He takes a coin out of his pocket and explains that this is a million coin, the greatest symbol of honor that a member of the Million Alliance can hold. He makes a cut on his finger and lets a drop of his blood land on the coin, and with it he swears his blood oath. He promises that he won't attack Wang anymore if he agrees to the truce. And if Stone breaks the oath for any reason, then he will immediately turn to dust. A blood oath is serious business, so Wang knows he can trust Stone's word, but he still takes a video of it just for fun. Wang is really starting to get on Stone's nerves, but he already made the oath, so he just hands Wang the coin and tells him to leave already. But before Wang leaves, he makes sure to rub it in Stone's face that he was forced to agree to a truce with someone like him. Wang then leaves, so Stone makes a call to one of his allies to inform her of what happened. He tells Misha that he is canceling the current training mission, and she is surprised to hear that, so she asks him if something bad happened. Stone explains that Kwai got into a bit of an accident, so she's currently unconscious. He can't explain the details over the phone, and so he asks Misha to meet up with him soon. However, all of a sudden, Misha's comms go quiet. Stone starts calling out to her to see if she's alright, but Misha is currently unconscious on a rooftop, and the one who attacked her is Shiku. Meanwhile, back at the construction site, Luo stopped paying attention to the surveillance footage a while ago because he thought there was no way Wang would ever defeat Stone and Kwai. But then his last assassin, Shan, gets up and starts walking over to the staircase. Luo asks Shan what he is doing, so Shan explains that all the other assassins have been defeated, so he's going to join the fun. Upon hearing this, Luo starts panicking because he believes that the only one strong enough to have passed Stone and Kwai would be Shiku. He asks his butler if what Shan said is true, and the butler confirms that all the assassins have been defeated. But the one responsible isn't Shiku, it was Wang. And technically, he didn't defeat Stone and Kwai, he just made a truce with them. Regardless of how he managed to do it, the butler tells Luo that it is too risky for him to continue with his plan to lure Shiku out, so he urges him to evacuate as soon as possible. But Luo refuses to do that because it would make him look like a coward. He turns to Shan and asks him if he can still help carry out the mission. He even offers to pay triple the original price, but Shan feels insulted that Luo thinks he can order him around with money, so he has his puppet launch an energy slash at Luo. Luo's butler is quick enough to block it before Luo is decapitated, but it was only a warning shot. The butler then warns Lu not to anger Shan again, saying he won't be able to save him next time. The story continues. We see once Wang makes it to the next floor, he punches the door down and walks into an empty room. When he first got here, he remembers the system telling him that there were 7 powerful people in this building, and so far Wang has only fought 5. That means there should be someone guarding this floor, but as far as he can tell, this place is completely deserted. All of a sudden, Wang hears someone talking, so he turns around and finds Shan and his puppet sitting on one of the support beams. He says he's going to be Wang's next opponent, so Wang asks the system to scan his power level, and to his surprise, the system informs him that Shan's power level is only 7. That means he is just a regular dude, but Shan seems really confident, so Wang asks the system if it's sure about the power level. The system tells him that Shan's power level is indeed only 7, but that puppet on his shoulder has a very intricate design, and is being powered by an intermediate level gem. Shan admits that he really is just a regular human, but that doesn't stop him from putting a talisman on his leg and using it to introduce Wang's head to a brick wall. Wang is gasping for air from that kick, and he still can't believe that Shan managed to hit him with so much force. But while Shan may be an ordinary man, he does have one superpower, and that power is being rich enough to buy a boatload of talismans from the monks. Wang doesn't want to know what Shan learned from the monks, so he panics and starts throwing bottles at him. But Shan easily blocks them, and when Wang tries to attack, he parries it by kicking him in the gut. Wang gets back up and starts going after Shan again, but Shan's technique is so good that Wang can't lay a finger on him, no matter how hard he tries. And Shan is enjoying every moment of this. He is ready to charge at Wang this time, but Wang doesn't plan on playing fair, so he throws some dirt in Shan's eyes, and while he is temporarily blinded, Wang starts putting some pressure on him. Shan is having a hard time dodging Wang's punches now that he can't see anymore, but he is still holding his ground fairly well. Wang knocks him back, so he jumps up onto the beams and pulls out a bottle of Tibonite drops, and uses them to get his eyesight back. Now he can see again, but Wang is still attacking him with full force, so Shan locks in and catches Wang's punches before sticking an explosive talisman on his chest and punching him back. Wang is starting to slow down now, but Shan isn't going to give him any time to rest, so he hits Wang with a flurry of kicks and knocks him through the back wall. Wang gets back on his feet as soon as he can, but then he sees Shan's puppet zoom past his face, and he already knows this can't be good. The puppet starts firing green energy blasts at him, so he's forced to run around the room to avoid getting hit. Eventually he manages to get close enough to the puppet to knock it out, but he was distracted for so long that Shen was able to sneak up behind him. Wang instinctively turns around just as Shen lands a punch on him, but the punch was so devastating that he spits up a mouthful of blood and Shen is very pleased with himself. But then he realizes that he made one fatal error. He let Wang grab his hair. He begins struggling to get his hair out of Wang's hands, but Wang has already got a devilish smile on his face because he knows what he's about to do to Shen. Wang then wraps Shen's hair around his hand, and for extra disrespect, he spits in his hand before hitting Shen with a punch that sends him flying across the room. Wang is still holding a lock of Shen's hair in his hand, so he is satisfied with his punch. But then he remembers that Shen is a regular person, so hitting him with a full power punch might have killed him. Wang looks over at Shen's body with worry in his eyes, but even though he took a lot of damage, Shen is still alive. He'd already put a revival talisman on his chest in case of emergencies like this, but unfortunately it can't revive his hairline. Shen is impressed that Wang was almost able to kill him just now, so he swears that even if he has to use every trick in the book, he is going to take Wang down. First he uses some Tibetan hair growth cream to restore his hair, and then he covers his body in all kinds of enhancement talismans to give himself a huge power-up. And with his new power, he begins speed blitzing Wang and combo juggling him around the room. Wang tries his best to fight back, but the second he throws a punch, Shen sticks 7 talismans on his arm and all of a sudden, Wang feels a lot slower than before. Shen then sticks an explosive talisman on his chest to send him flying, and Wang merely falls off the building because of this. But at the last second, he saves himself just to be attacked with more green blasts from Shen's puppet. Wang can't let himself get hit, so he runs around the room and grabs the puppet to stop it from blasting again. But then Shen uses the magic control thread as a rope to swing Wang around the building and slam him into yet another wall. That hit nearly knocked Wang out, so as he is slowly regaining consciousness, he sees Shen slowly walking towards him. Shen tells Wang that those talismans that he put on Wang earlier cost him 3.5 million, but Wang says he doesn't care about how much money Shen spent on his equipment. However, a moment later, Shen activates the talismans and Wang's arm is now feeling really heavy, so he can barely move. Shen uses the opportunity to prepare a special explosion talisman and throws it at Wang, resulting in a huge fiery explosion. Luo watches the whole thing happen from his security cameras, and he's impressed by Shen's strength. But just when Shen thought he had finally killed Wang, he sees him emerge from the flames completely unharmed. He managed to summon his shovel from his inventory, just in time to shield himself from the explosion, and Shen is furious because that explosion talisman cost him a fortune. He sends his puppet after Wang again and has a charge of a huge blast. But before it could fire, Wang uses his shovel to smack it out of the air. Wang then proceeds to grab the control string, and since he still has those weight talismans on him, he is way too heavy for Shen to pull, so he drags Shen over and punches him away. He then proceeds to play a game of human paddleball with Shen's body until he finally hits him so hard that the control string breaks and Shen is sent crashing into a wall. That knocked all the wind out of his body, so this fight is pretty much over and Wang is relieved that he managed to survive. He starts hobbling over to the final door so he can save Yao, but he is so exhausted that he can barely keep his eyes open. Meanwhile, Luo's butler comes over to him and says they need to leave the building immediately. Wang has just defeated Shen, and with him gone, Luo will stand no chance if Shiku shows up now. However, Luo still doesn't want to leave. He knows his butler is trying to keep him safe because if Luo were to die here, it would bring great shame to the entire Yin family. But some things are more important than protecting the family name. On a day that Luo lost his fingers to Shiku, he also lost his pride, and he won't be able to live with himself unless he settles the score once and for all. Besides, he still has his trump card, so he's willing to risk everything to make sure he gets back at Shiku. At the same time, downstairs, Wang hears a strange beeping noise, so he turns around and discovers that the intermediate gem inside Shen's puppet has been rigged to blow. This is Shen's final attempt to take Wang out, so he jumps off the building to get out of the blast radius and uses a gravity talisman to make himself float. And once he is at a safe distance, he activates the bomb. But to his dismay, nothing happens. Just then, Wang jumps after him and Shen can't handle another all-out fight, so he's forced to use his explosive talismans to keep him away. The explosion knocks Wang off course, but he grabs onto a nearby crane and uses it to swing back at Shen. In the meantime, Shen throws a bunch of gravity talismans on some falling rubbles and uses one as a platform while he throws the rest at Wang. Wang ends up falling through the air until he crash lands on one of the rocks, so Shen places some explosive talismans on another rock and throws it at Wang. But just as he triggers the explosion, Wang takes out his shovel and uses it to place the rock under his feet. The rock then explodes and sends Wang flying straight at Shen, so Shen starts pulling the rest of the explosive debris back to take Wang out. And it works because Wang gets knocked out by the explosion. Then he sees a vision of Yao, and he remembers that he's fighting to save her. He suddenly wakes up with all the power he has left in his body, punches Shen straight into the ground with no regard for his safety. There's no way Shen is getting back up from that, and frankly Wang probably would have died too, but at the last second, the system pulled him into the Q space, so he is still in one piece. Wang eventually wakes up, and the only thing on his mind is Yao's safety. The system informs him that Shen's energy suddenly disappeared at the moment of impact, so it is possible that he teleported away to save himself, leaving only his clothes behind. It's annoying that Shen is still out there, but Wang doesn't have time to worry about that because he still needs to go make sure Yao is alright. He makes his way back up the building, and when he gets to the top floor, he starts calling out for Yao. While searching, he finds Huan cowering in the corner, and he remembers that this whole thing started because of Huan, so he threatens to end him if Yao is hurt in any way. Huan begins begging for his life, so Wang demands to know where Yao is being held. Huan points over to a boarded-up wall, and Wang finds Yao inside, so he starts tearing down the planks so he can get to her. Yao begins shaking her head as if to tell him to stay away, but Wang fails to notice this, because he is so focused on freeing her. After he's done untying her, Yao takes the tape off her mouth and tells Wang that Luo strapped a bomb to the bottom of this chair, and if she gets up, it will go off immediately. She tells him to leave her and save himself, but Wang has had to deal with explosions all day, so a little bomb shouldn't be a problem for him. However, just as he is about to rip the bomb off Yao's chair, Luo sneaks up and blocks the entrance to the room with an iron door. The entire room is also covered in talismans that Shen created, so Wang won't be able to teleport out of here. That's a huge problem, since his whole plan was to teleport the bomb outside, so Wang asks the system if it knows how to defuse this bomb. The system tells him he can't stop the bomb from blowing up, so Wang comes up with an idea and stores the bomb in his Q space. This way, even if the bomb goes off, it won't hurt Yao, so Wang tells her everything's alright now. Yao hugs Wang because she was really worried about him, and Wang is so happy that he was able to protect her. But once the bomb goes off inside the Q space, Yao is horrified as Wang's blood splatters across her face. Wang falls to the floor in a comatose state, and Yao desperately tries to wake him up. Meanwhile, Luo is frustrated that the bomb didn't kill Yao as he had planned, but he has come too far to let it all go to waste. So while Wang is still unconscious, Luo enters the room with a gun and shoots Yao in the back twice. Luo's butler then comes over and informs him that Shiku is here, so they need to leave immediately. Luo and his butler start running away, leaving Wang and Yao to die. Wang managed to survive the explosion, but he is still dazed and confused, so he has no idea what just happened. However, reality hits him like a truck once he looks at his hand and realizes that it is covered in Yao's blood. He tries to push through the pain so he can get Yao to a hospital, but at that moment Shiku appears and he tells Wang that he won't be able to save Yao. Shiku teleports Yao out of Wang's arms and prepares to take her away. Wang has no idea of who Shiku is, so for all he knows, a random guy just showed up and jumped out a window with Yao in his arms. He rushes to the window and looks down thinking Yao might have died from the fall, but to his surprise, he sees Shiku floating in the air. Shiku says that he's the reason all of this happened in the first place, so he plans to take care of it, and with that he teleports away with Yao in his arms, leaving Wang devastated. The story continues. Since Shiku took Yao, her parents still have no idea where she is, so they are absolutely devastated. And so is Wang, because he personally blames himself for not being strong enough to protect her. Now, not only is Yao gone, but the cube isn't responding to him anymore, so he truly is powerless. He can still use his teleportation, but his strength has practically been reset as a result of the damage, so there's no hope of him rescuing Yao. Just then, a car pulls up behind Wang and a woman steps out with an umbrella. She walks up to Wang and says she wants to have a little chat, but Wang isn't in the mood so he completely ignores her. She then tells him that she knows where he can find Luo, and this gets Wang's attention since he still has to get revenge on Luo for shooting Yao in the back. He asks her to tell him where Luo is immediately, and she intends to, but first she needs Wang to come with her. She takes Wang to a restaurant, and as soon as the two of them sit down, Wang once again asks her to tell him where Luo is. However, she has one question she would like to ask Wang before she gives him any information. Wang agrees to listen to her, so she starts by asking why he thinks superhuman abilities are public knowledge, despite all the chaos and destruction they can cause. Wang assumes the extraordinary people are just good at covering their tracks, but the woman tells him he is wrong. She explains that there's actually an organization in charge of covering up all evidence of superhuman activities, although Wang says he doesn't really care. She tells him that he should start caring because she has been protecting him from the shadows for a long time now, but Wang finds it funny that she would claim to be protecting him when she has 3 dudes in the back ready to shoot him at any moment. Mu panics a little after realizing that Wang's onto her, so she reaches for the gun in her skirt. However, Wang is already aware of the gun thanks to the spatial awareness, so he tells her to be very careful about her next move. He tells her he doesn't intend to fight her, but he also doesn't appreciate having guns pointed at him. Mu calms down and asks Wang if he doubts her claim that there's an organization in charge of managing the superhumans, but Wang actually believes that part. He hadn't put much thought into it until now, but the fact that there are so many superhumans in the world means there must also be an organization in charge of handling them. However, he doesn't understand what Mu wants with him. Mu explains that a newly awakened superhuman like Wang is in serious danger of being targeted by other superhumans, which is why she has been going to great lengths to keep him safe. But in exchange, she would like him to return the favor and help her out a little. Wang sees where this is going, so he asks her if she wants him to be a mercenary like the other 2 back there. Although after scanning through power levels, Wang realizes that they are below sea level, so they are nowhere near him in terms of strength. One of Mu's subordinates warns her that Wang is already above B level in terms of strength, so it might be too risky to ask him for help. She's aware of the risks, but Wang would be a valuable asset, so she tells him he just needs to complete 3 missions for her, and then she'll give him the information on Luo. Wang is fine with doing missions for her, but only on the condition that she also gives him information on Shiku, and to his surprise, Mu agrees without a second thought. She slides a folder across the table and tells Wang this will be his first mission. He's going to be acting as a bodyguard for a person of interest, but Wang doesn't like the sound of that because it probably means he's going to have to skip a lot of classes. Mu assures him that he doesn't need to worry because the job will only take 1 day. He will be working as a bodyguard in State H and he will be paid 50,000 for the job, which is a lot higher than what Wang was expecting. Wang is starting to get suspicious and asks why she thinks he would trust her, but the fact that she brought him here for a friendly chat should be enough to prove that she means no harm. Aside from the gun, she nearly pulled on him. That aside, Wang will still need to take an assessment test to prove that he is qualified enough to fulfill the job, so she looks forward to seeing how well he performs. Mu and her team then get up to leave the shop, and Wang is left alone with the mission folder. He really doesn't like the idea of working for these strange people, but if he wants to rescue Yao, he needs as much information as he can get, and right now Mu is the only one with that information. While Mu is in the car with her subordinate, he asks her why she chose to ask someone like Wang for help. Wang is far too unpredictable for them to reliably control, and Mu understands that, but you can't expect to gain without taking on some risks. And unless she is willing to take a risk on Wang, she'll never be able to grow her organization. Besides, she already did a thorough investigation on Wang and he seems like a good kid. It has been a month since he awakened his powers and he hasn't done anything evil yet. He also managed to fight off several B-level fighters, which is why he is classified as B-level in their records, but she has a feeling that he is capable of so much more. The entire time, Wang has been eavesdropping on the conversation since he placed his cube on Mu's car and is hiding in the subspace. He now knows that Mu is just using him for her personal gain, and he is a little relieved since it'll be easier to deal with her if all she wants is to use Wang to raise her organization's reputation. However, as he continues listening, he hears Mu's subordinate ask her if she really intends to give Wang all the information they have on Luo, since if people find out that they leak info like that, it might cause trouble for them. Mu tells him not to worry because she already thought about that, and since Wang doesn't know anything about the Luo family, she can just give him some non-classified information to get him off their backs. After hearing this, Wang is enraged because Mu is trying to play him for a fool. He isn't going to let her get away with this, but for now he decides to play along with Mu's game because he has no other leads on Luo or Shiku. The next day, Wang heads to the location for his assessment, but he is starting to get confused because the GPS he got from Mu just led him to a random forest. He is starting to wonder if he might be lost, but then he spots a house hidden among the trees, and as he approaches, the front gate opens for him. Inside the mansion, several other fighters have already gathered and they are all here for their assessment, just like Wang. And a few minutes after he arrives, a man steps in front of everyone and tells them that the assessment is about to begin. His name is Shu, and he tells all the participants that for them to be chosen for the bodyguard role, they need to be loyal, observant, quick and strong. As such, the tests will be used to grade their suitability for the role, and the first test will require them to demonstrate their observation skills. The first test room is basically a casino, and the rules are simple. Each contestant will be given 5 chips to play with, and they are required to obtain 10 chips to advance to the next level. And stealing is strictly forbidden, so chips can only be obtained by winning games against your competitors. Wang wasn't expecting a test like this, but he's glad he doesn't have to fight anyone here. The only problem now is he has no idea how to win chips in this game. A man walks up beside him and says all he would need to do is win 5 more chips to advance, but it's obviously not going to be that simple. He advises Wang to stay away from all the slot machines, since even regular casinos rig their slot machines, so there's no way either of them could win a jackpot here. Statistically, a game of high-low should give him the good chance of success. Even the card games here are rigged, so playing against the house will almost always guarantee a loss. With that said, he has a proposal to make to Wang, but he suddenly realizes that Wang left a couple of minutes ago to find a game he can win. Meanwhile, Wang is walking around the casino when he happens to find a game that requires you to find a coin hidden under a cup. The guy who was playing just now lost all his chips to the cute attendant, and Wang can tell that there's a scam here, but he's not sure what it is yet. Just then, the man from before comes over and asks him if he would like to place a bet against him in the cup game. Wang asks him if he's sure he wants to do that, since it seems like something fishy is going on here. But the guy thinks Wang is a novice, so as long as he bets against Wang, there's no way he can lose. He begins taunting Wang and asks him if he is scared, but this game is actually perfect for him since he has spatial awareness, so Wang eventually accepts the man's challenge. He throws all of his chips on the table and says he's going all in, so the man does the same, thinking he's going to win all of Wang's chips. The other guy is doing his best to keep track of the cups with his eyes. But by the time the lady is done shuffling, Wang smiles because he finally figured out what the scam here is. The lady asks the players to make their guesses, and the man is sure the coin must be under the left cup, but when it's Wang's turn to guess, he says the coin is in the lady's hand. Everyone thinks Wang is crazy, and the lady tries to convince him to choose one of the cups instead, but he is sure that the coin is in her hand. She then moves the coin from her left hand to her right hand without anyone noticing just to try and trick Wang. But he won't fall for such petty tricks, so he asks her to open her hands and show everyone. The lady can't hide it anymore, so she is forced to reveal that the coin really is in her hand, making Wang the winner of the bet. Technically, the lady didn't break any rules since playing dirty isn't forbidden, but the man is surely saw a coin under the left cup, so he is still really confused, and after thinking about it a little longer, he suddenly realizes what must have happened. The lady must have had 2 coins in her hand at the start and only put 1 in the cup. Then, after the man made his guess, a trapdoor opened underneath the cup to hide the coin. He pushes the lady aside and starts searching the table for the trapdoor, but he can't find anything, and since he has no proof, the lady tells him to just accept defeat already. He can't believe he fell for such a simple trick, and he is even more shocked that plain-looking guy like Wang was able to see through it. After that, Wang passes the rest of the tests fairly easily, so by the end of the assessment, he and a few other candidates are selected to become bodyguards for the mission. The story continues. We see once all of them have been gathered, they are introduced to the man who organized this whole thing, Mr. Piao. He congratulates everyone for qualifying to become his bodyguards, and he is sure that with them around, the banquet is going to be very interesting. He has nothing more to say, so he tells his assistant Shua to debrief everyone on the terms and conditions. Shua explains that there will be other incentives aside from the base payment of 3 million, but Wang is shocked to hear this since he was told that he'd only get paid 50,000. He asks Shua if he is serious about the 3 million, and Shua explains that the advance payment has already been sent to his agent, Mu Yuqian. So basically, Wang got scammed hard. But it's not like there's anything he can do about it now, so Shua tells everyone that the banquet will begin in 6 hours, so they will all be briefed about the details on the way there. On the car ride, a woman named Jasmine hands Wang and one of the other bodyguards a folder full of confidential information. The Rudra banquet they are going to is going to be held in State H on Earth, and it involves 7 missions. One of those missions is an auction, and in that auction there is a particular item that Piao is after. Jasmine holds up a picture of an ancient mask and tells them that their job is to help Piao acquire that mask at all costs. While looking through the folder, Wang spots something that catches his attention, so he asks Jasmine if she knows what it is. She tells him that the picture is of the obsidian essence and back when Wang merely destroyed the cube. The last thing the system told him before it went silent was that he needed to acquire something with obsidian in its name. Wang can't be sure if the obsidian essence is what the system was talking about, but if it turns out to be right, then he might be able to get the system back. Just then, Wang is hit with a terrible headache, so Jasmine asks him if he's alright, but Wang tells her there's nothing wrong and goes back to reading the folder. He may have been scammed by Mu on the payment for this mission, but if it allows him to get his hands on the obsidian mask, then it might be worth his time. And after this, Wang is going straight after Luo to make him pay for what he did to Yao. Eventually, all the bodyguards arrive at the banquet hall, and as they walk in, Wang sees a lot of people standing around and having drinks. Now that everyone is here, the banquet can officially begin, and the bodyguards are informed that to start things off, they will be playing a game called Warrior's Bell. A trapdoor in the floor opens up, and as one of the guests looks down, he's horrified by what he sees. We've all heard about the men versus gorilla debate, but this is man versus alligator. Everyone's a bit frightened at the sight of the monster, but the announcer assures them that they are perfectly safe because the pit is covered by bulletproof glass, so there's no way the gator can escape. The guests are relieved that they aren't any danger, but the announcer can't say the same for the bodyguards here. The rules of Warrior's Bell game are simple. Each of the bodyguards needs to walk into the room with the gator one after another, and if they manage to grab the bell on the gator's neck, then they win. And just to motivate them to try their best, the announcer shows them the prize. They stand to win 2 large stacks of gold. But there is one condition to the game. Once you enter the room, you either leave with the gator's bell or you die. There's no in between. By this point, Wang realizes that this job has nothing to do with being a bodyguard. All the rich guests just want to watch them risk their lives for entertainment. Now that all the rules have been explained, a lot of the bodyguards are confident that they can win, so the first one has already walked into the cage. He has a spear and shield, but remember the only goal here is to take the bell and leave, so we think the smart thing to do here is go for the stealth option. But no, the dude yells at the top of his lungs and runs straight at the gator, and as expected, the gator wakes up and chomps down on him immediately. The gator then kills the man, and one of the guests, Stu, absolutely loves it. Piao was disappointed that the first bodyguard couldn't at least give the gator a good fight, but Wang doesn't think the bodyguard was weak. The gator is just way stronger than normal. The announcer informs everyone that this gator isn't an ordinary one, is actually an experimental bioengineered model made by Du's company. In other words, that gator is on steroids and it's got 50% more power as a result. Since everyone seems to be a bit rattled after the first bodyguard's death, the announcer increases the prize pool by 30% and asks if any more bodyguards are willing to take on the challenge. One of the other guest bodyguards, Hao, decides to step up since even though the gator is very fast, its attack range seems to be short, so as long as he keeps his distance, he should be fine. He goes to pick out a weapon from the armory and decides to grab a bunch of pole arms so he can use ranged attacks. As Hao confidently walks into the room, Wang wonders why everyone keeps volunteering for such a risky death game, but one of his fellow bodyguards tells him it was all in the contract. Wang has no idea what the guy is talking about, so he explains that the contract states that if no one volunteers for the death game, then someone will be picked at random and forced to participate. Wang thinks that's way too unfair, but that's why they all got paid 3 million. Too bad Wang's only getting 50,000 out of this. It looks like sooner or later, Wang is going to have to participate in one of these death games, so he takes a deep breath to ready himself. But then he notices a man on one of the balconies. As soon as he starts looking at the man notices Wang and glares back at him. Wang is freaked out by this, so the other bodyguard warns him not to stare at the man up there because he's a member of the Rudra Banquet Committee and he is here to maintain order in the banquet, which is why he looks so intimidating. Meanwhile, in the cage, Hao has been landing some decent hits on the gator by staying high up on the walls and stabbing it from a distance. With his speed and accuracy, he is confident that his strategy will lead him to victory. But even though the gator is injured, it doesn't seem to be slowing down at all. So when Hao goes in for a finishing blow, the gator unexpectedly hits him with a tail swipe that paints the walls with Hao's blood. The announcer really loves this part of his job, but now that Hao is dead, they need to move on, so he once again raises the prize pool by 30% and asks if there are any more volunteers. This time, no one wants to challenge the gator, so they all remain silent. But then one of Piao's bodyguards says something to him, and he suddenly makes an announcement. He tells all his bodyguards that if any of them can successfully take down the gator, that he will personally pay them double the prize pool as a bonus. This gets the bodyguards talking since with that kind of money, most of them could instantly wipe out any debt that forced them to come here, and Wang is amazed by how easily these people are influenced by money. Just then, one of guest Sammu's bodyguards, Modi, walks up to him and asks for permission to fight on his behalf. Sammu seems like he genuinely cares about his bodyguard, so he is worried about Modi's well-being, but he agrees to let him challenge the monster. However, before Modi could head into the cage, another bodyguard named Gold Poison says he wants to take on the challenge as well. The announcer gets excited since this means they have to do a last man standing event, but since Wang never read the contract, he has no idea what that means. The girl beside him informs Wang that a last man standing event means when two fighters want to take on a challenge at the same time, they will be forced to fight each other to the death in order to decide who gets to take on the challenge. Wang understands how it works, but he wonders why Gold chose to force a last man standing event, since even if he managed to kill Modi, he will probably run out of energy before he faces the gator. However, the others tell Wang he's completely wrong. As the battle is about to begin, Sanmu tells Modi that if he wins, he will get a long vacation, a raise, and a promotion as a reward, and hearing this motivates Modi a lot. However, he makes the mistake of turning around to thank Sanmu for his generosity, and in that brief moment, Gold sneaks up behind Modi to take him out. Gold is bitten into Modi's neck and is currently sucking in dry, and once Gold is done, he hits up and mocks Sanmu, telling him that it looks like Modi won't be able to enjoy that vacation anymore. Wang's fellow bodyguards explain that Gold has the ability to boost his own combat power by sucking the blood of his target, and the stronger the target is, the stronger Gold becomes. But there's a downside to it, because after the effects of the power boost wear off, Gold will become scared of light and low temperatures. The announcer congratulates Gold for winning the last man standing, and now that that's over, he may now enter the cage to challenge the gator. Gold confidently walks in, but the announcer notices that he didn't pick a weapon before coming in, so he asks Gold why. Gold tells him there's no need for him to use a weapon, especially since it wouldn't be fair for the gator. As soon as the gator spots Gold, starts running towards him, but as it tries to bite down, Gold jumps out of the way and lands on its mouth. He then kisses the gator's head, and a second later the gator's head is chopped clean off. Gold considers himself a bit of an animal activist, so if he's going to have to kill the gator, he at least wanted to make it as quick and painless as possible. And now that the gator is dead, Gold heads back out and hands the bell to the announcer. Du congratulates him for being the first one to successfully slay the monster, and as promised, he may now collect his prize. Du asks him if he would like to take it now, but Gold knows there's something fishy going on here, so he says he will take the gold by delivery later. But now that the first monster has been dealt with, the guests ask Du if he has anything else left to show them. Du assures them that the show has just begun, because they'll never be able to guess the next beast he has lined up. The guests aren't convinced that there's anything that can top the alligator that just got killed, but Du tells them that this is something special. As the monster is being released, Wang can sense that something dangerous is coming, and a few seconds later the beast emerges. This is a monster that possesses the speed of the fastest cars and the strength of several dozen bears, codenamed Taowu number 17. The story continues. We see everyone starts to panic once they see the monster that Du is just released, and Du is really proud of his creation. So he goes on to tell them that the monster's only weakness is that it is too cruel. It has a tendency to kill any and all humans that are around it, including the poor man whose job was to tie a bell around its neck. But it's not like Du cares about innocent lives anyway. So once Taowu is done eating, he asks which brave warrior wants to take on the challenge first. Wang's been getting a strange feeling recently, almost like someone is intentionally trying to cause trouble, and it's not Du. He believes there's a mole within his team, but he's not sure who it is, so he decides to let things play out a little longer. Du brings out some more gold bars and announces to everyone that the reward for defeating Taowu will be twice as much as the alligator, and before long, a challenger comes forward. The challenger enters the cage with a sword and attempts to slash Taowu. But to his surprise, Taowu completely ignores him and instead jumps up to attack the ceiling. People were already a little scared when they first saw Taowu, but now that it is scratching the supposedly impenetrable glass, they are really starting a panic. Du tries to assure everyone that there's no way the glass could ever break, but then Taowu headbutts it and causes a crack, so Du isn't so sure anymore. Meanwhile, in the cage, a challenger feels insulted that Taowu would ignore him like this as he tries to attack it while its back is turned. However, Taowu is way too fast for him, so when he strikes, he completely misses his target. Taowu then appears behind him and with a single claw strike, random noob number 7 has been killed. Taowu then picks up the challenger's sword and it makes direct eye contact with Du because it's out for revenge against its cruel master. It then begins jumping and slashing at the glass with a sword in its mouth, and Du is starting to get worried, so he begins calling for backup because he has no idea why Taowu suddenly became so aggressive. While Du is still trying to figure out what happened, Wang has already pinpointed the cause. The reason behind Taowu's sudden aggression is gold poison. When he was fighting the alligator, he sprinkles a little gold dust on the floor, but no one aside from Wang noticed this. At first, Wang thought he was using it to gain an advantage over the alligator, but now it's clear that it was to set up this incident. Just then, Taowu manages to break through the glass, and now everyone is in full-blown panic, especially Du because Taowu has beef with him. It jumps forward, but just as it is about to kill Du, Murong steps in and kicks it away. Du thanks Murong for saving him and promptly runs away so Taowu can't try to kill him again. But before he leaves, he asks Murong if he needs to call in some of the armed guards to help neutralize Taowu. Murong tells him that won't be necessary because regular guards would just get themselves killed. Meanwhile, over on Piao's team, Piao innocently asks Du if this is still part of the show to divert suspicion, but Wang knows this team is behind all this. At the same time, Mumu silently walks away from the crowd, but Wang doesn't call attention to it because all this chaos works out in his favor. With what's going on, security is bound to become lax so he can use the opportunity to steal the obsidian from the treasure vault and get out of here. He starts walking away, but as he is leading Du's special defense unit, the 4 order keepers arrive. One of them tells everyone that there's no need to panic because they are going to subdue Taowu, and immediately after, a second member punches Taowu's head straight into the floor, knocking it out cold. They took care of it a lot quicker than Wang expected them to, so he is disappointed. But then he realizes that Mumu still hasn't returned, so she must be up to something. Meanwhile, in the mansion halls, the security team has just been informed that there was an incident in the main hall, but the order keeper stepped up and resolved it, so there's no need to worry. Just then, the lights go out in the halls, but the guards don't think much of it and just assume there's some faulty wiring. A few moments later, one of the guards hears a noise behind him, so he goes to check it out, but as he does so, Mumu knocks out his partner, and a second later she knocks him out as well. She then locks both guards in a storage closet and leaves to continue her mission, but she can't let the security cameras spot her, so she presses a button that temporarily interrupts the security feed, allowing her to slip by undetected. She then descends an elevator shaft, and once she's at the bottom, she pries the doors open with her bare hands. There's a second set of doors she needs to get through, but these ones require a biometric scan, so she puts on a glove with fake fingerprints and uses it to trick the scanner into granting her access to the treasure vault. However, despite how careful she has been so far, she still gets caught by one of the order keepers. There's no way she can talk herself out of this, so she draws her sword and prepares for a fight. The order keeper also readies his blades, and as the two of them clash, Mumu is having trouble gaining ground against him. At one point she nearly gets slashed, but she manages to dodge at the last second. However, she loses her hat in the process. Just then, one of the regular guards sneaks up behind her and he is about to shoot. But Mumu isn't sloppy enough to get caught lacking by a regular man with a gun, so she kicks the gun out of his hand and sends him flying. She then notices another guard approaching her, so she takes the unconscious body of the first guard and throws it at the second one before knocking both of them to the ground with a kick. That should take care of both of them for now, but Mumu was so focused on dealing with them that she forgot about the order keepers and he's about to stab her from behind. But at the last second, Wang catches his arm. Mumu is surprised and asks Wang what he is doing here because he was a part of this plan, but Wang just pretends that he doesn't know what she's talking about. Just then, the order keeper tries to punch Wang, but Wang is way stronger than he is, so he just catches the order keeper's arm and breaks it while knocking him out. His surprise that a sea-level weakling thought it was a good idea to fight on his own, Mumu is more surprised that Wang thinks sea-level is weak. However, she still wants an explanation for how Wang knew where she was and why he is here. Wang simply tells her that he is her bodyguard, so it makes sense that he would follow her on a dangerous mission. He already figured out that Mumu is the real boss here, and Piao was just a figurehead. What gave it away was the fact that Piao was at the front of their formation, while Mumu was at the back. Even if Piao was strong enough to defend himself, it doesn't make sense for the boss to be standing in front of their bodyguard, meaning Mumu was the real boss all along. Mumu admits that Wang is correct, but it's not like it matters anymore because the commotion they just caused is bound to draw attention, so the rest of the order keepers will probably get here within 2 minutes. Since they only have 2 minutes, Wang tells her that they had better hurry up and find the treasure before they get caught, but that's easier said than done. Mumu was able to sneak in this far, but this was just a decoy vault and she has no idea where the real one is located. Wang turns to her and says he has a question to ask. She seemed awfully confident in her plan earlier, so he wants to know if she has a plan to escape this place. Mumu confirms it, so Wang offers to make a deal. He will help her find the treasure vault, and in exchange, he wants her to let him escape with her. Mumu is fine with that deal, but she asks Wang how he could possibly know where the treasure vault is when he has never been here before. However, with his spatial awareness, he can already sense the room that has all the treasures. Just then, he also senses someone coming from behind them, so he pulls the girl out of the way and both of them hide behind a wall. A few moments later, a barrage of bullets are shot at them and it looks like the order keepers have finally caught up with them. Wang senses that the leader is about to do something, so he puts on his glasses in preparation. The leader asks one of her men to hand her the flashbang so she can disorientate the intruders, but as she throws it, Wang turns around the corner and smacks the flashbang back at her with a baseball bat. This buys him enough time to take Mumu and run, but before long they are cornered by the order keepers yet again. Mumu attempts to draw her sword, but the leader stops her with her whip, and when Wang tries to help her, the big guy smashes his head into the wall. Meanwhile, Mumu is still trying to defend herself against the leader, but since she is outnumbered, the big guy comes up from behind and knocks her into the wall right next to Wang. Wang says 3B level warriors against the two of them isn't a fair fight, but the leader doesn't care about having fair fights and it doesn't matter what Wang thinks of her because he's going to be dead soon. Wang laughs and says he isn't going to die alone as he drops a grenade on the ground. The leader panics and braces herself for an explosion, but the grenade was fake all along. Wang just used it as a diversion so he and Mumu could escape. They eventually make it to a sealed room and destroy the security cameras so they can't be tracked, but it's still only a matter of time before the order keepers track them down again. Mumu thanks him for saving her, but she asks why he bothered to help her since he could probably escape on his own. Wang says he still needs to gather intel on Luo and Shiku so he can find Yao, and he was hired as a bodyguard so he couldn't just leave her to die. Either way, they can't wait around for the order keepers to find them, so Wang tells her he has a plan. A few minutes later, the order keepers are walking through the halls when Wang steps out in front of them. The leader is glad they don't have to keep searching for him, but she notices that Mumu isn't here. Wang tells her he ditched Mumu because a weakling like her would only hold him back, and they are surprised that he would do something like that. But they can't let an intruder escape, so the leader orders one of her teammates to go trap Mumu down. This is exactly what Wang wanted to happen. So as soon as the third order keeper leaves, Mumu reveals that she was hiding in the ceiling all along. She jumps down and starts attacking the leader, but the big guy tries sneaking up behind her. However, since it's now a fair 2-on-2 fight, Wang is able to cover Mumu and punch the big guy into a wall. Mumu then knocks the leader out as well, and now that they defeated the two of them, they need to hurry before the third one comes back. Wang leads Mumu to the room with all the treasure and rips a hole in the wall so they can get in. Once they are inside, Mumu finds the scroll that she came here to get, and she immediately calls dibs on it. Wang tells her she doesn't have to worry because he isn't interested in some dusty old scroll. What he wants is the obsidian cube, and once he finds it, they both get ready to leave. He asks Mumu what her escape plan is, and she explains that there is a huge draining pipe down in the dungeon biotech lab, so if they head down there, they should be able to crawl out. It sounds simple enough, but for some reason Wang has a bad feeling about this. At the same time, the order keepers have regained consciousness and they are getting back on their feet. Their master walks up to ask them what happened. After seeing them badly injured, he realizes that they got beaten up, so he wastes no time and tells them to take these pills so they can capture the intruders. That brings the episode to an end. Thanks for watching. Want next part? Subscribe the channel and turn on notification bell.